Okay, it's Friday, September 16th. This is a pre-open SPY video. It's about an hour to go before trading begins. It looks like we're going to have a big gap down. This is the daily chart here. Had a red day yesterday. If we look at the aftermarket price action, we moved a little lower and then we gapped down overnight. And now we're in this range that I've drawn here so far. We'll see where that officially ends up. But this is the range I'm monitoring, the high and low. To see whether we, after a gap down like this, if we can break below whatever the low of this range is near the open and continue lower. I'll show you why there's some other targets below that we could look for. It could be tricky always when you have a big gap down to get a lot of follow through, but we'll see what, or even if you get a little follow through, whether it continues all day or not. That's what I meant. If we get it some kind of an up trade where we get green bars above this pre-market high up here, then I would only look for on the daily chart some kind of rally to close this gap and maybe go to the halfway point of the prior bar. It's really something you don't want to be buying per se, but it could be a short-term trade to the upside without, and then you'd have to monitor if something really strong developed for some reason. Do we get above the midpoint of this day to kind of get a big reversal on all this down move in the last 5 days or so. But in terms of where we head now, if we look at the bigger picture, we kind of reached our weekly targets, which was the goal all week long. So we've broadened out down there. I had to go back on the weekly chart and look at some of these next blue lines for our next weekly targets. And even within this blue line, there's another, well, this is a daily low up in here as well that coincides with the weekly low. So that's really our next target to the downside. What I try to do also is just go back to the standard channel analysis that most people use, or I even use it in addition to the strat sometimes, just to see where another push down could go. And if we really monitor this channel I've drawn on the daily chart, we could see that if we break down below this area here, our pre-market high and low, we could be, our next target is here on the weekly chart. And then if we really get weak here in the days ahead towards the end of September, this is kind of the monthly low that I've monitored. That brings you to the bottom of the channel. So there are, it can certainly pick up momentum and head to the bottom down here. There are two more, we're going to gap down here at some point, and then there's a target here which doesn't quite reach the bottom of the channel. And then maybe it'll spread out a little bit and eventually get down there. That's on the monthly chart down here, where we're always talking about by the end of September reaching these lows. I've shot many videos on that. So that would be the bottom of a daily channel. And if you look at the way the channel's forming, whether we get there in one day, today, or whether it kind of pauses maybe into next week and makes one more push down there, who knows? So that's something to keep in mind as we watch these targets. There's always exhaustion risk, when you're gapping down, another day here. We gapped down on this day earlier in the week. Now we're gapping down again. So you have to be a little careful on follow through. I still happen to own these SPY puts that closed at 925. I know I bought those at like 680. So they're going to open up nice today. So for those of you who watched my videos yesterday and maybe bought some puts and are holding on, it's going to be nice gains. You could take them near the open here, and whether we continue lower or not, who cares? But you might want to see if we get on a Friday here with a lot of bad news in the market, we could be gapping down like 250 points on the Dow. Maybe we'll get one of those 800 point down days. Who knows? You're just gonna have to watch. So bottom line, there are targets down here. There's exhaustion risk. The upside, I wouldn't play for too much continuation to the upside if we get it. It could be a tricky day with exhaustion, just hard to say. So we'll just kind of do the standard thing here where going to mark the pre-market highs and lows, watch where the opening goes, and we need to stay below this pre-market low for really have continuation to the downside. And we have to get above this level right here to have any chance of even getting some kind of reversal. So, definitely something to play the short side again. There'll be some stocks that maybe the way to look at it might be just to watch if, like, for example, if this was a stock, if you get a nice red bar here, it doesn't follow through, but you just kind of pause a little bit, then you can maybe wait and play that second push down instead of getting real aggressive early on. But it just depends how aggressive you want to be. And as always, even if you're wrong, the way I do things, if you get in, you do have tight stops on that first bar. I'll show you that if something develops later on, where you would have maybe entered a trade if you want to go short, and where you'd place your stop and everything else. But let's just see if we continue. We're going to gap pretty low, I would presume. I don't really anticipate us rallying in the pre-market here. You never know. And let's see if we get continuation towards these lower end of the channel. Next target here, though, is this blue line. That's the 380 area, if we're going to stay below this 384. So let's see if maybe, any push down here early, even on a very short-term channel, I would take profits quickly. I'm not convinced we're going to head down to the channel lows today, but anyway, anything's possible. So let's just watch price action. But definitely a good move to be short all week. There was plenty of trades. I'll do a recap at the end of the day, and this was a pretty clear week after this big red bar that we were going to continue lower. There were a lot of targets here. The first ones have been hit, and now we'll see if we hit the secondary targets to the downside as well.